Well, the small businesses, that is the MSMEs, are playing a very critical role in the economy, especially from the point of view of job creation, from the point of view of poverty reduction, from the point of view of enabling an economy that is inclusive. And when we have a segment of the economy that is able to deliver such values, I think we will appreciate how important and how critical the sector is, to the overall stability and progress of the economy. They contribute, over 50% of the GDP. And when I talk about GDP, I'm talking about the totality of the output of the economy. So the sector is a very critical sector of the economy. And but whether the sector is getting a commensurate attention from the point of view of policy, support, and all of that is a different matter. Because in my view, the support that the sector is getting is not proportional or commensurate to the value that the sector is bringing to the economy. But to answer your question directly, it's a very, very strategic and very important sector or segment of the Nigerian economy.
All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, good to see you again. The essence of having a day like this is to draw attention to the role of SMEs in achieving the 2030 agenda. Now we're 6 years away from the timeline set for this goal to be achieved. Would you say that the SMEs are well equipped for this task? What are the concerns or the challenges ravaging the delivery of SMEs when it comes to achieving the SDG goals? Talk to us.
Well, the SDG goals, they will have 17 of those goals. But where the SMEs are much more relevant or that can make a lot of impact is in the area of poverty reduction, which is a very important element of the SDG goals. It's in the area of zero hunger. There's, of course, a relationship between hunger and poverty and employment. So in those areas, and also in the area of education and reduction of inequality. So in those 4 critical SDG goals, the SMEs or small businesses play a very, very important role because of the scale of employment that they generate, the number of people that are employed, and the number of people that are making a living from that sector. You see that the growth of the sector has a very strong correlation with poverty reduction, with reduction in hunger, with reduction in inequality, and to some extent even improving the level of education. But these days, if you don't have the economic empowerment, it's extremely difficult for you to ensure the education of your children or your ward, as the case may be. So the SMEs are contributing a lot in that space. But just as you said, they also have major challenges. Right now, the mortality rate of small businesses is extremely high. And when I talk about mortality rate, I'm talking about the rate at which they die off or they collapse. I think there's a study that says that close to 70% or more of small businesses die before they are up to 5 years or so. So a lot of mortality instances occur at the SME level. And these things happen as a result of a number of factors. First is what we call the macroeconomic factors. And when I talk about macroeconomic factors, I'm talking about things like inflation, the rate at which prices are skyrocketing. I'm talking about things like the exchange rate, because the economy is highly sensitive to developments in the exchange rate of foreign exchange environment. I'm talking about things like, of course, these are structural issues now. We are talking about things like the energy situation, for instance, logistics, the logistics environment, how easily can they move their products or raw materials from one point to the other. I'm also talking about issues of institutions. That is also very critical, because the institutional environment, the regulatory environment can be very burdensome to businesses. A lot of them complain about too many institutions coming after them. They complain about too many taxes that they have to pay. They complain about the cost of energy, especially now that we had the subsidy removal. And shortly after that, we have this electricity tariff hike. So the energy situation is a very, very big issue for many of them, especially for those of them that are in production. Because in production, you need a lot of energy. So when your cost is going up and your consumers are not ready to pay more, then you have a very big challenge. So the issue of, the purchasing power by the populace or by the consumers is also a very big issue. Because if you produce, you want to sell. And if people are not buying and your costs are going up, these are forced many businesses to fold up. Then some of them have, or many of them in fact, have issues with credit. Access to credit in our conventional banks is a very big issue. Many of them don't have what it takes, particularly this issue of collateral, to be able to access bank loans. And this has forced many of them to be patronizing all manner of, lenders in the financial space. Some of them in the formal sector, some of them in the informal sector, and they pay outrageous interest rates. Some pay as high as 10% per month, some pay as high as 5% per month. Microfinance banks, their cost of credit is also extremely high. So these are some of the issues